I'm going to show you how to finger crochet using a ball of t-shirt yarn. Take the end of the t-shirt yarn and make a circle. We're going to do an overhand knot and just pull the tail through the circle. That's going to get you started. So all we have is an overhand knot. I have not pulled it tight. I want to keep it about the size for one finger to fit inside that loop. Now you have two strands that are coming from the loop. The tail of the yarn and then the yarn that's connected to the ball of yarn. We are always going to be using the piece of yarn connected to the ball of yarn. Just let the tail hang. And all you're going to do is take that strand of yarn and push it through the circle, which makes another circle just big enough for one finger to fit in. So just push it just big enough for one finger to fit in. I know it's hard to see, but all I'm doing is taking the strand of yarn that's connected to the ball of yarn, and you notice now I have a loop, and I'm just pushing the yarn through, which then makes another loop. And that's all. Push it through to make a loop. Again, the size for one finger. Push it through to make a loop. Push it through to make a loop. And you continue until it's the length that you want. And that depends on what you're making. As you practice this finished product will have more even loops. You can stretch them a little bit into place, but this is your goal. I know it's really hard to see the detail in here. I'll show you in a second how to do two strands, and you'll see it much better. To finger crochet with two strips, just take two balls of t-shirt yarn. I'm using a light pink one and a hot pink one. Just treat the two strands as one. And so as before, we're going to make a loop and pull the tail through to get started. Now, using the two strands of yarn that are coming from the balls of yarn, push them both through the loop, but this time you want a loop about the size for two fingers to fit in because there's two strands of yarn and it's going to make a thicker loop. So just push them through and pull it up to fit two fingers. Push them through, pull it up to fit two fingers. Make the loop 2 fingers wide. Now I think you can see the detail a little bit clearer with the two strands of yarn. It appears similar to a braid, similar to a crochet strip. I'm going to continue until I have about 15 inches of the weave. Don't count the tail in that measurement, but about 15 inches of the crocheted portion. Remember, basically all I'm doing is taking two strands of yarn that are coming from the balls and pushing it through the loop to make another loop. That's all you're doing. I'm about to measure this and see how much I've got. I'm going to make this into a headband or a sweatband for a child. This measures at 14 inches if I don't count that last loop. And so I want 15 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and push one more loop. And that will make it about 15 inches there. For an adult, you might do 18 inches, but I'm going to do children. So what I do with this last loop is I go ahead and cut a tail, just like before, and I put it through and pull it. And that finishes off that last loop. To make it into the headband, just tie the two tails together. Now, if you need it larger, you can tie the two tails leaving some of the tail, and that makes it larger. You can tie it right at the weaving. That makes it smaller. If you really need it smaller, you can actually push the tail through one of these loops and tie it off there. And that makes the hole smaller. But about 15 inches, and then tie it right at the end of the weave is what I have found to be about right for a child. You want to be sure it's not twisted when you tie it, or else it will be uncomfortable. And there you have it, a nice headband or sweatband to go in your shoebox.